Okay, we're going to evaluate for given values of x in exponential equations. And we'll be given an exponential equation and a couple of values that we need to evaluate with. And I'm going to look at this as if it were a t-table. So let's suppose that I had some sort of a t-table. And I have x and y. And what I want to do is take this given equation here, and I'm going to plug in two values for x. I'm going to plug in this value of x equals 2, so I'm going to put this down here, and x equals -1. I'm going to put this down here. And what I want to know is what the corresponding y's are. What are the y values when I plug those numbers in? And we're going to go through and do it in two spaces. We're going to do it for x equals -2, and then we'll do it again for x equals -1. And we'll go through the process. When I'm looking at this equation that I have, I'm only plugging in for this value right here, this x. Now, there's a negative in front of it, and I'm going to have to keep track of that, but the only thing I'm plugging in is just for that x. So when I start with my x equals 2, I plugged in 2 for my x, but this negative right here, we'll use purple, this negative right here, well, that was already there. So I'm going to leave that there. And what that means is that I need to move my e to the denominator because negative powers mean that I need to rewrite it as a fraction. So I'm going to take this guy right here and rewrite him as a fraction, which gives me that. So when I take my power of -2, it goes into the denominator, and now my power is positive. The algebra right here is if I have 4 over 1 times 1 over e to the 2, this gives me 4 over e to the 2. And that's how I got this line right there. Okay. Now I need to evaluate what e to the power of 2 is. Well, e is just a number, and on your calculator, there's some sort of an ln e key. So you want to use that. I don't know if you need to shift to find e or use your second key to find e, but that's usually where you find it on your calculator. Those are together. And you're going to put e to the power of 2 in your calculator. So I'm putting this right here in my calculator, and it's going to give me that answer. So this is calculator math. Okay. Once I do that, I want to do the math of dividing 4 by that number. So that's this line right here, where I say what is 4 divided by 7.3890560099, and it's going to spit out this number. So I'm doing all of this in my calculator. It's going to give me this number, and I want to round that because it's a huge decimal to deal with. And so I'm going to round it to the hundredths place, and it's going to give me about 0.54, approximately. So I'm going to say about 0.54. So when I plug in 2 to my equation, I get out about 0.54. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is evaluate when x is -1. So back up here again. So when I'm looking at this, again, I'm going to plug in just for the x, but that negative is already there. So when I plug in for my x, I'm plugging in this number here. So I'm plugging in just this -1. But this negative right here on the outside, that was already there in the equation. Okay. So when I do this math, a negative is a positive, and that gives me 4 times e to the 1. And then I put in my e to the 1 in my calculator, and I'm going to get this number out. And then I multiply that by 4, and I will get this guy right here, which again has a lot of decimal places, so I want to round it. I'm going to round to the hundredths place, so it's going to be approximately 10.87. So I'm going to say when I plug in -1, I get approximately 10.87. And that's how I find my corresponding y's.